The elderly white woman's knees buckled on the busy downtown sidewalk, her designer purse hitting the concrete with a sharp crack. Pedestrians kept walking, their eyes fixed on their phones, their pace never slowing. The woman tried to speak, but only a weak gasp escaped her lips. Her trembling hand reached for the parking meter, missing it by inches as she crumpled toward the ground. Camille Carter was 3 days into living in her car. She had $23 to her name, an empty stomach that hadn't seen food since yesterday morning, and a job interview in 2 hours that might change everything. She should have kept walking. She needed to get to the library to print her resume. She needed to save every minute, every penny, every ounce of energy. But she couldn't. Camille dropped to her knees beside the woman, catching her before her head hit the pavement. The woman's skin was cold and clammy, her breathing shallow. Her lips had a slight blue tint that Camille recognized from her years as a social worker. Can you hear me?" Camille asked, supporting the woman's weight against her own body. "I've got you. You're okay." The woman's eyes fluttered open, unfocused and confused. My son." Camille pulled out her phone with one hand while keeping the woman steady with the other. She dialed 911, giving their location to the operator. The woman's purse had spilled open, and Camille spotted a small medical alert card. Diabetic. Low blood sugar emergency. In Camille's coat pocket, wrapped in tissue, were 3 glucose tablets. She'd bought them yesterday with her last few dollars because she knew what hunger felt like, knew what it meant to need your blood sugar stable just to function. These were supposed to get her through the next 2 days. Would you keep walking past someone dying on the street, or would you give up everything to save them? Drop a comment below and let me know what you would do. And if this story touches your heart, please subscribe so you never miss what happens next. Camille unwrapped the tablets with shaking hands. I need you to chew these. Can you do that for me?" The woman nodded weakly, and Camille placed the first tablet in her mouth. Then the second. Then the third and final one. Her entire safety net, gone in 3 minutes. But the woman's color was already improving, her breathing growing steadier. "What's your son's number?" Camille asked, holding the woman close. "Let me call him." The woman's phone required a fingerprint. Camille gently pressed the woman's thumb to the screen, and it opened. The emergency contact simply said Julian with a photo of a handsome white man in a business suit. Camille made the call. "Mom, I'm in a meeting," a deep voice answered, slightly annoyed. "This isn't your mom," Camille said quickly. "My name is Camille Carter. Your mother collapsed on 5th Street near the courthouse. I called 911, but you need to get here now." The line went silent for a heartbeat. Then Camille heard chairs scraping, urgent voices in the background, and the man's voice came back, tight with fear. "Is she breathing? Is she conscious?" "Yes to both. I gave her glucose tablets. She's responding, but the ambulance is on its way. I'm 10 minutes out. Stay with her. Please." "I'm not going anywhere," Camille promised, though her job interview was now impossible to make. Her one chance this week, gone. But as she looked at the woman's face, seeing the color returning, seeing her eyes focus with clarity, Camille knew she'd made the right choice. The ambulance arrived in 7 minutes. Julian Hartley arrived in 8, his black car screeching to a stop at the curb. He was out of the vehicle before it fully stopped, his expensive shoes hitting the pavement at a run. He saw his mother sitting up, leaning against a young black woman whose clothes were clean but worn, whose eyes were tired but kind. The young woman was speaking softly to his mother, keeping her calm, keeping her present. Julian froze for just a second, taking in the scene. Then he rushed over, dropping to his knees beside them. "Mom," he breathed, taking her hand. "Mom, I'm here." Eleanor Hartley smiled weakly at her son, then turned to Camille. "This angel saved my life." 3 months earlier, Camille Carter had been someone completely different. She'd had an apartment in a decent neighborhood, a job she loved at the community center, and enough money in savings to feel secure. Not rich, but stable. Safe. Then her Aunt Gloria got sick. Aunt Gloria had raised Camille after her parents died in a car accident when she was 12. Gloria had been a cafeteria worker at the local elementary school, never married, never had children of her own. But she took in Camille without hesitation, loved her without condition, and gave her everything she had. When the cancer diagnosis came, Camille didn't think twice. She took leave from work to be Gloria's full-time caregiver. The medical bills piled up quickly. Insurance covered some things, but not everything. Not the medications that helped with pain. Not the special foods that Gloria could actually keep down. Not the home health supplies that made Gloria's final months bearable. Camille used her savings first. Then her credit cards. Then she sold everything she owned that had any value. Her car went to pay for Gloria's final hospital stay. Her jewelry, her electronics, her furniture, all of it converted to cash to keep Gloria comfortable. Gloria died on a Tuesday morning in April, holding Camille's hand, telling her she'd lived a good life because of the love they shared. 2 days later, Camille's landlord informed her that without a cosigner, without proof of income, without the security deposit for renewal, she had 30 days to vacate. Camille had been a social worker. She knew the system. She knew about shelters and assistance programs. But she also knew they were full, overwhelmed, understaffed. She'd spent years trying to help people navigate that system, watching good people fall through the cracks despite everyone's best efforts. She decided to try a different approach. She bought a used car for $800 from a colleague who felt sorry for her. It barely ran, but it had a back seat that reclined. She got a gym membership for $20 a month so she'd have a place to shower. She kept her phone active because she needed it for job applications. Every morning, Camille woke up in that car, drove to the gym, cleaned herself up, and went to the library. She applied for jobs, studied for interviews, and tried to maintain some sense of normalcy. She told herself it was temporary. She told herself something would break her way soon. But 3 months had passed. The money ran out. The rejection emails piled up. Overqualified for some positions, underqualified for others, too much of an employment gap for the rest. The system she'd once worked within was now working against her. Still, Camille refused to give up. She kept herself clean, kept her spirits up as much as possible, and kept applying. She rationed her food, stretching meals as far as they would go. She parked in different spots each night to avoid being noticed. She smiled at people on the street because she refused to let her circumstances steal her humanity. The glucose tablets in her pocket had been a small act of self-preservation. She'd felt her own blood sugar dropping too often, felt the shakes and the dizziness that came with real hunger. 3 tablets for $3 seemed like a reasonable investment in staying functional. She never imagined she'd give them all away to a stranger. But that was who Camille was, deep down. Her Aunt Gloria used to say that kindness wasn't about having abundance, it was about sharing whatever you had. Even when you had almost nothing. Now, sitting in the back of the ambulance with Eleanor Hartley and her son Julian, Camille wondered if that kindness would cost her everything. She'd missed her interview. The company wouldn't reschedule. Another door closed. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and coffee. Camille sat in the emergency room waiting area, her hands folded in her lap, wondering when she could politely leave. Eleanor Hartley was in good hands now. The doctors were running tests, getting her stabilized, making sure the diabetic episode hadn't caused any lasting damage. Julian Hartley approached her with 2 cups of coffee and a sandwich still in its wrapper. He sat down beside her, offering both without a word. Camille's stomach cramped at the sight of food, but she hesitated. "You don't have to. Please," Julian said simply. "You saved my mother's life. The least I can do is make sure you eat." Camille took the coffee and sandwich, and this time she didn't argue. She was too hungry to be proud, and besides, refusing help when it was offered wouldn't change anything. She unwrapped the sandwich and took a bite, trying not to eat too quickly, trying to maintain some dignity. Julian watched her for a moment, then looked away, giving her privacy. When she finished, he turned back to her. "The doctors say Mom is going to be fine. Thanks to you. If you hadn't been there, if you hadn't known what to do." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. "I'm glad I could help," Camille said quietly. "You gave her glucose tablets," Julian continued. "The paramedics told me." "Where did you?" Camille met his eyes. She could lie. She could make up a story about having them for a friend, for emergencies, for any reason other than the truth. But she was too tired for lies. I bought them for myself, she said. I've been going through a rough time. I needed to keep my blood sugar stable. Understanding dawned in Julian's eyes, followed by something that looked like respect. You gave her your last ones. She needed them more than I did. Julian was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I want to repay you. I know that sounds transactional, and I don't mean it that way. But you sacrificed something important to save my mother. Please let me help you. Camille started to shake her head, started to say she didn't need anything, that she'd be fine. But then she stopped herself. Would she be fine? Would pride keep her warm tonight? Would stubborn independence fill her stomach tomorrow? Aunt Gloria's voice echoed in her memory. Accept help when it's offered with a good heart, baby girl. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Okay, Camille said softly. Thank you. I accept your help. Relief flooded Julian's face. I have a hotel room reserved for you. For as long as you need it. Meals included. No strings attached. And tomorrow, if you're willing, I'd like to sit down and talk about how else I might be able to help. Tears pricked Camille's eyes. She nodded, not trusting her voice. 2 hours later, after Eleanor was moved to a regular room and settled for the night, Julian drove Camille to the Riverside Hotel. It wasn't the fanciest place in town, but it was clean and comfortable and infinitely better than the back seat of her car. The room had a real bed with clean sheets. A bathroom with hot water that didn't run on a timer. A small refrigerator that Julian had already stocked with food. Camille stood in the doorway, overwhelmed by the simple kindness of it all. Get some rest, Julian said. I'll call you tomorrow around 10. Is that okay? That's perfect, Camille managed. Thank you, Julian. Really. He smiled, a genuine warmth in his expression. Thank you, Camille. For being the kind of person who stops to help. The world needs more people like you. After he left, Camille took the longest shower of her life. She washed away 3 months of stress and fear and uncertainty. She put on the clean pajamas someone had left on the bed, and she lay down on sheets that smelled like lavender. For the first time in 96 days, Camille Carter slept through the night. The next morning, Julian called at exactly 10 o'clock. Eleanor wanted to see her, he said. She wanted to thank Camille personally. Would Camille be willing to visit the hospital? Camille agreed immediately. Eleanor Hartley looked much better than she had yesterday. Color had returned to her face, and her eyes were bright and alert. She smiled when Camille walked into the room. There she is, Eleanor said warmly. My guardian angel. I'm just glad you're okay, Camille replied, taking the seat beside the bed. Julian told me you've been going through a difficult time, Eleanor said gently. He told me about the glucose tablets. About what you gave up to help me. Camille glanced at Julian, who stood near the window. He gave her an encouraging nod. Eleanor continued, I've been thinking all night about what I can do to properly thank you. And I have a proposal. I need someone. Someone patient and kind, someone who understands medical issues, someone I can trust. My diabetes requires careful management, and Julian worries about me living alone. Would you consider becoming my companion? My assistant? You'd live in the guest house on our estate, help me manage my medications and appointments, and just be there. I'd pay you a good salary, of course. Health insurance. Everything you need. Camille's breath caught. It was too much. Too generous. Too perfect. But then she remembered her promise to herself. Accept help when it's offered with a good heart. Yes, Camille said, her voice steady. I would be honored to help you, Eleanor. Eleanor's face lit up with joy. Oh, wonderful. Just wonderful. Julian stepped forward, his own smile matching his mother's. Welcome to the family, Camille. The Hartley estate sat on 12 acres just outside the city. Camille had seen places like this in movies, but she'd never imagined actually living in one. The main house was a sprawling colonial with white columns and black shutters. Gardens stretched in every direction, professionally maintained and beautiful. The guest house, where Camille would live, was a small cottage tucked behind the main house. It had one bedroom, a full bathroom, a kitchenette, and a cozy living room. Compared to her car, it felt like a palace. Julian helped her move in, though she had almost nothing to move. The few belongings she'd kept fit in 2 bags. He didn't comment on this, didn't ask questions. He simply helped her carry the bags inside and showed her where everything was. Mom usually wakes around 7, he explained. She has breakfast at 8. Her morning medications need to be taken with food. I wrote everything down for you, but she can walk you through her routine too. I'll take good care of her, Camille promised. I know you will, Julian said. He paused at the door. Camille, I want you to know that you're not just an employee here. You're someone who saved my mother's life. You're someone I respect. If you need anything at all, please tell me. I will. Thank you, Julian. That first week was an adjustment. Camille learned Eleanor's routines, her preferences, her quirks. Eleanor liked her coffee strong and her toast lightly buttered. She took 6 different medications at specific times throughout the day. She had physical therapy twice a week for her knees, and book club every Thursday afternoon with her friends. But beyond the medical care and the scheduling, something else developed. Camille and Eleanor talked. They shared stories. They laughed together. Eleanor told Camille about losing her husband 5 years ago, about how lonely the big house felt sometimes, about how Julian worked too much and worried too much and forgot to just live sometimes. Camille told Eleanor about Aunt Gloria, about the kindness that had shaped her entire life, about the loss that still felt raw and recent. Eleanor listened with the kind of attention that made Camille feel truly heard. Your aunt sounds like she was a wonderful woman, Eleanor said one afternoon as they sat in the garden. She was everything to me, Camille replied. She raised you right, Eleanor said softly. The fact that you stopped to help me, that you gave up your own safety to save a stranger, that tells me everything about who you are. Gloria would be so proud of you. Camille wiped at her eyes. I hope so. Eleanor reached over and squeezed her hand. I know so. Julian came to dinner at the main house every Sunday. It was a tradition Eleanor insisted on, a way to make sure she saw her son at least once a week outside of his brief daily check-in calls. The first Sunday after Camille arrived, Eleanor asked her to join them. Oh, I don't want to intrude on family time, Camille protested. You're not intruding, Eleanor said firmly. You're family now too. So Camille joined them. She helped Eleanor prepare the meal, setting the table in the formal dining room with china that probably cost more than Camille's first car. When Julian arrived, he smiled at seeing Camille there. Mom's putting you to work already, I see, he teased. I'm happy to help, Camille replied. Dinner was comfortable. They talked about Julian's work at Hartley Technologies, about Eleanor's book club's latest selection, about the new garden beds Eleanor wanted to plant in the spring. Julian asked Camille about her background in social work, genuinely interested in her experiences. You must have helped a lot of people, he said. I tried, Camille replied. The system is complicated. There's so much need and never enough resources. But even small help can make a big difference in someone's life. Julian nodded thoughtfully. I've been thinking about that. About using my resources more effectively. Maybe you could help me understand where the real needs are, where funding could do the most good. I'd be happy to, Camille said, surprised and touched by his interest. As the weeks passed, Camille settled into her new life. She had a routine, a purpose, a place to call home. She had enough food, a warm bed, and people who treated her with kindness and respect. The fear that had defined her recent months began to fade. But something else was growing in its place. Something she hadn't expected and didn't quite know how to handle. She was developing feelings for Julian Hartley. It started small. The way he checked on his mother every morning before work, calling just to say good morning. The way he listened when people talked, really listened, giving them his full attention. The way he treated the estate staff with the same respect he showed his business partners. Camille tried to ignore it. She was an employee. He was her employer's son. A billionaire. Someone completely out of her league in every measurable way. But feelings didn't care about logic. One evening, Julian stopped by to drop off some documents for his mother. Eleanor was already asleep, so Camille met him at the door. "I can make sure she gets these in the morning," Camille said, taking the folder. "Thank you." Julian hesitated. "How is she doing?" "Really? She's doing wonderfully," Camille assured him. "Her blood sugar has been stable. She's keeping up with all her medications. She's happy. Because of you," Julian said softly. "She talks about you all the time. About your conversations, your friendship. You've given her something she was missing. Joy." Camille felt her cheeks warm. "She's given me a lot too. A home. A purpose. She's become like family to me." Julian's expression softened. "I'm glad. And Camille, I know I've said this before, but thank you. For everything." Their eyes met, and for a moment, something passed between them. Something unspoken but undeniable. Then Julian cleared his throat and stepped back. "I should go. Tell Mom I'll call her in the morning." "I will. Good night, Julian." "Good night, Camille." As she watched him walk back to his car, Camille pressed a hand to her heart, feeling it race in a way that had nothing to do with fear or stress or uncertainty. This was something entirely different. And it terrified her in the best possible way. Spring arrived at the Hartley estate with an explosion of color. The gardens burst into bloom, filling the air with the scent of roses and lilacs. Eleanor was in her element, spending hours each day tending to her flowers with Camille by her side. Julian's Sunday dinners became something Camille looked forward to all week. Eleanor, observant as always, noticed the way her son's eyes lingered on Camille. She noticed the way Camille's smile brightened whenever Julian entered a room. And being Eleanor, she decided to help things along. "Julian, darling, I've been thinking," Eleanor said one Sunday over dessert. "Camille has been working so hard. She deserves an evening off. Why don't you take her to that new Italian restaurant downtown? The one you've been telling me about?" Julian's fork paused halfway to his mouth. Camille nearly choked on her water. "Mom," Julian said carefully, "I'm sure Camille has her own plans." "Actually, I don't," Camille heard herself say. "I mean, if you'd like to go, I'd enjoy that." Eleanor beamed. "Wonderful. It's settled then." 2 days later, Julian picked up Camille at 7. She'd borrowed a dress from Eleanor, a simple navy blue sheath that Eleanor insisted looked better on Camille than it ever had on her. Camille had spent an hour on her hair and makeup, nervous in a way she hadn't been since high school. Julian wore a charcoal suit without the tie, the top button of his white shirt undone. When he saw Camille, his expression went soft with admiration. "You look beautiful," he said simply. "Thank you. You look nice too." The restaurant was elegant but not stuffy. They were seated at a quiet corner table with a view of the city lights. Julian ordered wine, and they both relaxed as the evening progressed. They talked about everything. Julian told her about growing up with immense privilege but also immense pressure. His father had built Hartley Technologies from the ground up, and Julian had spent his whole life trying to prove he was worthy of that legacy. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm living the life I want or the life I'm supposed to want," he admitted. "Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense," Camille replied. "I think a lot of people feel that way. Caught between what they dream about and what they think they should be doing." "What did you dream about?" Julian asked. "Before everything that happened?" Camille thought about it. "I dreamed about helping people. I got to do that as a social worker. But I also dreamed about having a family someday. People to love. A place to belong." "You have that now," Julian said softly. "With Mom. With us." "I do," Camille agreed. "I'm grateful every single day. Can I tell you something?" Julian leaned forward slightly. "That day you saved my mother, it changed something in me. I'd been so focused on work, on success, on building the company. But watching you, seeing the way you gave everything you had to help a stranger, it reminded me what really matters. People. Connection. Kindness." Camille's heart hammered in her chest. "Julian. I know this is complicated," he continued. "I know there are a dozen reasons why this probably isn't appropriate. But I need you to know that I think about you constantly. Every morning, I look forward to Sunday dinners just so I can see you. Every time my phone rings, I hope it's you calling about Mom because it means I get to hear your voice. Camille set down her wine glass with a shaking hand. I feel the same way. I've been trying to keep things professional, but Julian, I can't stop thinking about you either. The relief on his face was palpable. Really? Really? They finished dinner in a daze of happiness, both of them grinning like teenagers. Julian drove her home the long way, neither of them ready for the evening to end. When they finally pulled up to the guest house, he walked her to the door. Can I see you again? He asked. I mean, outside of Sunday dinners and Mom's care? On an actual date? Yes, Camille said without hesitation. I'd really like that. Julian stepped closer. May I kiss you? Camille nodded, and he leaned in slowly, giving her time to change her mind. But she didn't want to change her mind. She wanted this, wanted him, wanted this moment that felt like the beginning of something wonderful. His lips met hers softly, gently, a kiss full of promise and possibility. When they pulled apart, both of them were smiling. Good night, Camille, Julian whispered. Good night, Julian. Inside the guest house, Camille leaned against the closed door and laughed with pure joy. Her life had changed so much in such a short time. From homeless and hopeless to here, to this, to falling for a man who saw her as an equal despite their different worlds. The next morning, Eleanor took one look at Camille's face and started laughing. So the dinner went well, I take it. Camille tried to play it cool and failed miserably. It went very well. I'm so happy for you both, Eleanor said, pulling Camille into a hug. You deserve this. You deserve love and happiness and every good thing. Thank you for pushing us together, Camille admitted. Oh honey, I didn't push. I just opened the door. You two walked through it all on your own. Over the following weeks, Camille and Julian saw each other as often as their schedules allowed. He took her to movies, to art museums, to quiet coffee shops where they could talk for hours. She showed him parts of the city he'd never seen, the community centers where she used to work, the neighborhoods where real people lived real lives. This is where I helped Mrs. Patterson find housing, Camille said, pointing to a small apartment building. She'd been living in her sister's garage for 2 years. It took 6 months of paperwork and phone calls, but we finally got her approved for subsidized housing. She cried when she got the keys. Julian listened to every story, asked questions, genuinely cared about the people Camille talked about. He started thinking differently about his company's community outreach programs, about where money could make a real difference. One Saturday, they took Eleanor to the botanical gardens. She walked between them, one arm linked through Camille's, the other through Julian's, looking happier than she had in years. This is how it should be, Eleanor said contentedly. Family together, enjoying a beautiful day. Julian and Camille exchanged a glance over Eleanor's head, both of them thinking the same thing. This felt right. It felt like home. That evening, after Eleanor had gone to bed, Julian and Camille sat on the guest house porch watching the stars. I never expected this, Camille said softly. 3 months ago, I was sleeping in my car, wondering how I'd survive another day. Now I'm here with you, and it feels like a dream. Not a dream, Julian said, taking her hand. This is real. We're real. I know. I just sometimes worry that I'll wake up and it'll all be gone. Julian pulled her closer. I'm not going anywhere. And neither are you. We're building something here, Camille. Something that matters. She rested her head on his shoulder, feeling safe and cherished and hopeful about the future for the first time in a very long time. The invitation arrived on a Monday morning. The Hartley Foundation Annual Charity Gala. Black tie. Benefiting education programs for underserved communities. Eleanor handed it to Camille with a knowing smile. You're coming with us, of course. Oh, I don't think that's appropriate, Camille said automatically. This is a work event for Julian, and I'm your family, Eleanor interrupted firmly. And more than that, you're Julian's girlfriend. Of course you're coming. Camille still wasn't used to hearing that word. Girlfriend. It felt too simple for what she and Julian had, but also perfectly right. I don't have anything to wear to something like that, Camille admitted. Eleanor's eyes sparkled. Well then, we're going shopping. The next day, Eleanor and Camille spent the afternoon at an upscale boutique. The saleswoman brought out dress after dress, each one more beautiful than the last. Camille tried on emerald green silk, deep burgundy velvet, classic black satin. But when she stepped out of the dressing room in a midnight blue gown with delicate beading on the bodice, Eleanor gasped. That's the one. Oh Camille, you look stunning. Camille turned to look at herself in the three-way mirror. The dress fit perfectly, elegant and sophisticated. She barely recognized herself. Are you sure? Camille asked. It's so expensive. My dear girl, this is my gift to you, Eleanor said warmly. Let me do this. Please. Camille thought about refusing. But then she remembered her new philosophy. Accept help when it's offered with love. Thank you, Eleanor. Really. Thank you. They bought shoes, a small clutch purse, and simple diamond earrings that Eleanor insisted were just gathering dust in her jewelry box anyway. The night of the gala, Julian came to pick up both his mother and Camille. He wore a perfectly tailored tuxedo, looking every inch the successful billionaire CEO. But when Camille opened the door and he saw her in the blue gown, his mouth literally fell open. Camille, he breathed. You're absolutely breathtaking. You clean up pretty nice yourself, she replied, smiling. The gala was held at the Grand Marquis Hotel, a historic building downtown with soaring ceilings and crystal chandeliers. Camille had never been anywhere so fancy. Waiters circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. A string quartet played classical music. Everyone was dressed in designer gowns and expensive tuxedos. Julian kept Camille close, introducing her to colleagues and business partners. This is Camille Carter, he'd say, pride evident in his voice. She's the woman who saved my mother's life. People were kind and welcoming. A few were clearly curious about where she'd come from, but Julian deflected any overly personal questions with practiced ease. Thomas Green, Julian's business partner, was particularly warm. So you're the famous Camille, he said, shaking her hand. Julian hasn't stopped talking about you since you two started dating. Oh really? Camille glanced at Julian, who had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. Really, Thomas confirmed with a grin. It's good to see him happy. He works too hard. He needed someone like you to remind him there's more to life than board meetings and profit margins. Later in the evening, the music shifted to something slower, more romantic. Julian offered his hand. Dance with me. Camille took his hand and let him lead her to the dance floor. She'd been nervous about this part, worried she wouldn't know the steps, but Julian made it easy. He held her close, guiding her through the waltz with confident grace. Having a good time? He asked. The best time, she admitted. Though I keep expecting someone to tell me I don't belong here. You belong here as much as anyone, Julian said firmly. More than most, actually. Do you know what the difference is between you and half the people in this room? What? You've actually helped people. Not just written checks or showed up at fundraisers, but really helped. You've been in the trenches. You've sacrificed for others. That's worth more than all the money in this room combined. Camille felt tears prick her eyes. How do you always know exactly what to say? Because I mean it, Julian replied. Camille, I need to tell you something. Okay. I'm falling in love with you. Her breath caught. The music swelled around them. Camille looked up into his eyes and saw nothing but sincerity and hope. I'm falling in love with you too, she whispered. Julian pulled her closer, and they continued dancing, wrapped in their own private world despite the crowd around them. If this story is making your heart beat faster, if you're hoping these two find their happily ever after, please hit that subscribe button. Your support means everything, and I promise the best is yet to come. From across the room, Eleanor watched her son dance with Camille and smiled. She'd known from the beginning that these two belonged together. Some things were just meant to be. Thomas joined Eleanor at her table. They make a good couple, he observed. The best, Eleanor agreed. Camille is exactly what Julian needed. Someone real. Someone who sees him for who he is, not what he has. And he sees her the same way, Thomas added. I've never seen him like this. Happy. present. Actually living his life instead of just working through it. Eleanor raised her champagne glass. To love. May it continue to surprise us all. Thomas clinked his glass against hers. To love. As the evening wound down, Julian, Camille, and Eleanor left together. In the car, Eleanor squeezed Camille's hand. Thank you for tonight. For making my son so happy. He makes me happy too, Camille replied. Both of you do. Good, Eleanor said with satisfaction. Because you're stuck with us now. They all laughed, and Camille felt that warm sense of belonging she'd been missing for so long. This was family. This was home. And she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The estate gardens were particularly beautiful in the evening. Solar lights lined the walking paths, and the night-blooming jasmine filled the air with sweet fragrance. Camille often came out here after Eleanor went to bed, enjoying the peace and quiet. Tonight, Julian joined her. He'd called earlier, asking if she'd be free for a walk. Something in his voice suggested this wasn't just a casual evening stroll. They walked in comfortable silence for a while, their hands linked. Finally, Julian guided her to a bench beneath an old oak tree. This was my father's favorite spot, he said. He used to come here to think. To make big decisions. Tell me about him, Camille said softly. Julian smiled at the memory. He was brilliant. Driven. But also kind. He built Hartley Technologies from nothing, but he never forgot where he came from. He created scholarship programs, funded community centers, always tried to use his success to lift others up. He sounds wonderful. He was. And he would have loved you. Julian turned to face her fully. Camille, I've been thinking a lot about the future. About what I want my life to look like. Okay. For a long time, I thought success meant growing the company, making more money, building a bigger empire. That's what I thought would make me happy. That's what I thought would make my father proud. And now I realize that success means something different. It means waking up excited about the day ahead. It means having people in your life who matter. It means using your resources to make a real difference, not just because it's good PR, but because you genuinely care. Camille's heart was pounding. Julian, where is this going? He took both her hands in his. I'm in love with you, Camille. Not falling. Not starting to. I'm completely, totally, deeply in love with you. I know we haven't been together that long by traditional standards, but I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I love you too, Camille said, tears streaming down her face. So much. I know there are people who might question this, Julian continued. People who might say we're from different worlds, that we're moving too fast, that there are too many complications. But I don't care about any of that. I care about you. About us. About building a life together. I want that too, Camille said. But Julian, sometimes I worry. I worry that one day you'll wake up and realize you could have been with someone more suitable. Someone who belongs in your world. Julian cupped her face gently. You belong in my world because you're in my world. And more than that, you've made my world better just by being in it. I don't want someone suitable. I want someone real. Someone who challenges me and makes me laugh and reminds me what truly matters. I want you. I'm scared, Camille admitted. I'm scared of losing this. Of losing you. I'm not going anywhere, Julian promised. We're building something real here. Something that lasts. And yes, we'll face challenges. There will be people who don't understand. But we'll face it all together. Camille threw her arms around him, holding him tight. I love you. I love you so much. I love you too. Julian pulled back just enough to kiss her, a kiss full of promise and commitment and hope for the future. They sat together on that bench for hours, talking about their dreams. Julian wanted to expand his foundation, focus more on programs that actually helped people instead of just making donors feel good. Camille wanted to get back into social work, maybe in a new capacity, maybe creating programs that addressed the gaps she'd seen in the system. We could do it together, Julian suggested. Combine your experience and knowledge with my resources. Create something that really works. A foundation, Camille said slowly. One that helps people the way I needed help. Not just with money, but with support. With dignity. Exactly. Julian's eyes lit up with excitement. We could focus on preventing homelessness, helping people before they fall through the cracks. Job training, emergency funds, temporary housing. All the things that might have kept you from ending up in your car. That would be amazing, Camille breathed. To take something so painful and turn it into something that helps others. Then let's do it, Julian said. Let's build this together. They kissed again, sealing the promise. Around them, the night air was sweet and warm. Above them, stars glittered in the clear sky. And in that moment, everything felt possible. When they finally walked back to the main house, hand in hand, Eleanor was waiting on the porch. One look at their faces told her everything. So you finally told her, Eleanor said to Julian with a knowing smile. Finally, Julian confirmed. Eleanor hugged them both. I'm so happy for you too. You're perfect together. Thanks, Mom. Eleanor looked between them seriously. Love isn't always easy. There will be hard days. Days when you disagree, when you frustrate each other, when you wonder if you made the right choice. But what matters is choosing each other anyway. Choosing to work through the hard parts. Choosing to stay. We will, Camille promised. I know you will, Eleanor said. I see it in the way you look at each other. Real love. The kind that lasts. That night, lying in bed in her small guest house, Camille thought about how far she'd come. For months ago, she'd been sleeping in her car, using her last dollars to buy glucose tablets just to stay functional. She'd been scared and alone and wondering if she'd ever find solid ground again. Now she had a home. She had Eleanor, who'd become like a second mother. She had Julian, who loved her not despite her past but including it, seeing it as part of what made her who she was. And most importantly, she had hope again. Real, solid, unshakable hope for a future that looked bright and full of possibility. She fell asleep smiling, dreaming of all the tomorrows still to come. The foundation became their shared passion project. Julian set aside office space in the Hartley Technologies building, hiring a small but dedicated staff. Camille worked full-time developing programs, drawing on her years of social work experience to create something truly helpful. They called it the Second Chances Foundation. Because everyone deserves a second chance, Camille explained at the planning meeting. And sometimes people need help taking it. The foundation focused on 3 main areas. Emergency assistance for people on the verge of homelessness, providing rent support, utility payments, and food assistance. Job training and placement services, helping people develop skills and find employment. And transitional housing, safe places for people to stay while they got back on their feet. I want every person who comes through our doors to be treated with dignity, Camille insisted. No judgment. No hoops to jump through. Just help, offered freely. Julian supported every decision she made, trusting her expertise. But he also added his business acumen, ensuring the foundation was structured for long-term sustainability. They worked together beautifully. Where Camille saw the human needs, Julian saw the systems and structures. Where Julian got caught up in logistics, Camille reminded him of the real people they were trying to help. 3 months after they started, the foundation opened its doors. On the first day, 27 people came seeking help. By the end of the first week, that number had grown to over 100. Camille met with each person personally. She listened to their stories, understanding their struggles in a way few others could. She'd been where they were. She knew what it felt like to be desperate and scared and out of options. One afternoon, a young woman named Patricia came in. She was 25, recently laid off from her waitressing job, with a 6-year-old daughter and rent due in 3 days. She had no family, no savings, no backup plan. Camille sat with her in the comfortable meeting room they designed specifically to feel welcoming rather than institutional. Tell me what you need. Patricia broke down crying. I don't know. Everything. I'm trying so hard, but nothing is working. I can't lose my apartment. My daughter has school. She has friends. I can't make her homeless because I can't keep it together. You're not going to lose your apartment, Camille said firmly. We're going to help you. But I need you to tell me, honestly, What would solve this problem? Not what you think you're allowed to ask for, but what would actually fix this? Patricia took a shaky breath. 2 months of rent. That would give me time to find another job. And maybe help with childcare while I interview and work. My mom watches her usually, but she lives 3 hours away and can't come here. Okay, Camille said. We can do that. We'll cover 2 months of rent. We'll connect you with our childcare program. And we have job placement services that can help you find something better than waitressing, something with benefits and stability. Patricia stared at her. Just like that. Just like that. But I can't. I mean, how do I pay it back? Camille smiled gently. You don't. That's not how this works. We're giving you a hand up, not a hand out. Someday, when you're back on your feet, maybe you'll help someone else. That's how you pay it back. Patricia sobbed with relief, and Camille hugged her, remembering how it felt to be on the edge of disaster with no one to catch you. Julian watched from the doorway, his heart swelling with love and pride. This was what he'd been missing in his life. This sense of purpose. This feeling of actually making a difference. That evening, they had dinner with Eleanor at the main house. Natasha, Camille's best friend, joined them. She'd been working as a nurse but had recently joined the Foundation's medical advisory board, helping develop health support programs for their clients. I still can't believe this is real, Natasha said, looking around the elegant dining room. 6 months ago, you were sleeping in your car. Now you're running a foundation and dating a billionaire. It's like a movie. A really good movie, Camille agreed, smiling at Julian. You deserve all of this, Natasha said seriously. You've spent your whole life helping others. It's about time the universe paid you back. Eleanor raised her wine glass. To Camille, who saw someone in need and helped without hesitation. And who continues to help everyone she meets. To Camille, the others echoed. After dinner, Julian and Camille took their usual walk through the gardens. The foundation, their relationship, everything felt like it was falling perfectly into place. I have a question, Julian said. How would you feel about me proposing a new program? What kind of program? Education scholarships. Specifically for people who had to leave college due to family emergencies or financial hardship. People like you, who gave up their dreams to take care of someone they loved. Camille stopped walking. Julian, that's brilliant. I was thinking we could call it the Gloria Carter Memorial Scholarship. After your aunt. Tears filled Camille's eyes. Really? Really? She helped raise an incredible woman. I think honoring her by helping others the way she helped you would be perfect. Camille hugged him tightly. I love you so much. I love you too. They stood there in the garden, holding each other, both of them thinking about how much their lives had changed. How one moment of kindness on a downtown sidewalk had led to all of this. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd kept walking that day? Julian asked. Sometimes, Camille admitted. But I couldn't have. That's not who I am. Aunt Gloria taught me that helping others isn't a choice you make. It's who you are. Well, I'm grateful you're who you are, Julian said. Because you didn't just save my mother's life. You saved mine too. How? I was so lost in work, in expectations, in trying to live up to some impossible standard. You reminded me what life is actually about. Connection. Love. Purpose beyond profit. You woke me up. Camille cupped his face. We woke each other up. They kissed under the stars, surrounded by the gardens that had become their special place. Tomorrow they'd return to the foundation, to helping people, to building their shared vision. But tonight, this moment, was just for them. Their love story. Their second chance. Their perfectly imperfect happily ever after in the making. 6 months passed in a blur of foundation work and deepening love. The Second Chances Foundation had helped over 300 people avoid homelessness. Patricia, the young mother they'd helped, now worked as the foundation's office manager. Dozens of others had found jobs through their programs, secured housing, gotten back on their feet. Camille and Julian were inseparable. They worked together during the day and came home to family dinners with Eleanor at night. They'd developed a rhythm, a partnership that felt as natural as breathing. Julian had been planning something special for weeks. He'd spoken to Eleanor, who'd cried happy tears and given her enthusiastic blessing. He'd called Natasha, asking her to help coordinate. He'd picked out a ring, a simple but elegant diamond that reminded him of Camille herself, beautiful without needing to be ostentatious. On a Saturday morning in September, Julian told Camille he wanted to show her something. He drove them downtown, parking on 5th Street near the courthouse. "Why are we here?" Camille asked, confused. "You'll see," Julian said, taking her hand. He led her to the exact spot where Eleanor had collapsed all those months ago. The same parking meter. The same stretch of sidewalk. "This is where it all started," Julian said softly. "This is where you saved my mother. Where you changed my life. Where our story began." Camille looked around, remembering that day. How scared she'd been. How hungry. How she'd almost kept walking but couldn't. "I was so lost then," she said quietly. "You were found," Julian corrected. "You just didn't know it yet." He got down on one knee right there on the sidewalk. Camille's hands flew to her mouth. "Camille Carter," Julian said, pulling out the ring box. "You are the kindest, strongest, most incredible person I've ever met. You've taught me what truly matters. You've shown me what love really looks like. You've made me want to be better, do better, live better. I love you more than I knew it was possible to love someone. Will you marry me?" "Yes," Camille said through happy tears. "Yes, yes, yes." Julian slipped the ring on her finger and stood, pulling her into his arms. They kissed right there on 5th Street, in the spot where their lives had intersected, where everything had changed. Passers-by smiled at them. A few people even clapped. When they finally pulled apart, Julian was grinning. "There's more. More." He led her around the corner to a small park. Under a pavilion, Eleanor waited with Natasha, Thomas, and about 30 other people. Staff from the foundation, friends, even some of the people they'd helped. All of them holding flowers and champagne glasses. "Surprise," Eleanor called out, beaming. Everyone cheered as Julian and Camille approached. Natasha ran up and hugged Camille fiercely. "I'm so happy for you," Natasha said. "You deserve this. You deserve everything." Eleanor hugged her next. "Welcome to the family officially, dear girl." The impromptu engagement party lasted all afternoon. People shared stories about Camille and Julian, about the foundation, about second chances and new beginnings. Patricia stood up and talked about how the foundation had saved her family. "6 months ago, I thought my life was over," Patricia said. "I couldn't feed my daughter. I couldn't keep a roof over our heads. I had nowhere to turn. Then Camille sat with me and said 3 words I'll never forget. 'We'll help you. Not maybe. Not if you qualify. Just we'll help you.' And she did. They did. And now my daughter is thriving in school, I have a job I love, and I have hope again. That's what Camille and Julian give people. Hope." Camille was crying again. Julian held her hand, squeezing gently. As the sun began to set, the crowd dispersed, leaving just family and close friends. They moved the celebration to the estate, where Eleanor had arranged for caterers and a small live band. Thomas pulled Julian aside. "You did good, my friend. She's perfect for you." "I know," Julian said, watching Camille laugh with Natasha and Eleanor. "Best decision I ever made was stopping to help her after she helped Mom. Best decision you ever made was recognizing a good thing when you saw it," Thomas corrected. "And having the courage to pursue it despite what people might think." "Has anyone said anything negative?" Julian asked, suddenly concerned. "A few whispers. People who don't understand. But who cares what they think? You're happy. Genuinely happy. I've known you for 15 years, and I've never seen you like this." Julian smiled. "I've never felt like this." That night, after all the guests had left, Julian, Camille, and Eleanor sat on the porch of the main house. The night was clear and cool, perfect for sitting outside. "I need to tell you both something," Eleanor said. "I've been thinking about the future. About this beautiful family we've created." "What is it, Mom?" Julian asked. "I want you two to live in the main house after you're married. It's too big for just me anyway. We'll convert the east wing into a private suite for you. The guest house can become an office for the foundation work you do from home. Eleanor, we couldn't, Camille protested. You can and you will, Eleanor said firmly. This house has been too quiet for too long. It needs life. It needs love. It needs you too. Besides, I'm selfish. I want my family close. Julian looked at Camille. What do you think? Camille thought about it. A year ago, she'd been homeless. 6 months ago, she'd been grateful for a small guest house. Now Eleanor was offering them a place in the family home, not as employees or guests, but as family. Accept help when it's offered with love. Aunt Gloria's voice echoed in her mind. We accept, Camille said warmly. Thank you, Eleanor. For everything. For giving me a job, a home, a family. For raising such an incredible son. For being the mother I needed. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. Thank you for saving my life. And thank you for saving his. You've brought so much joy to us both. They sat together in comfortable silence, 3 people who'd become a family through kindness and love and second chances. The wedding took place in the estate gardens on a perfect October afternoon. The trees were ablaze with fall colors, and the weather cooperated with clear blue skies and comfortable temperatures. They'd kept it intimate. About 75 guests, mostly close friends, foundation staff, and people whose lives had been touched by the Second Chances Foundation. Eleanor had insisted on handling all the planning, giving Camille and Julian the gift of simply showing up and enjoying the day. Natasha served as maid of honor, wearing a deep plum gown that complemented her warm brown skin. Thomas stood as best man, looking proud to be part of the celebration. Camille wore a simple ivory gown with delicate lace sleeves and a flowing skirt. Her hair was swept up in an elegant twist, with small white flowers tucked into the style. She looked radiant, glowing with happiness. Julian wore a classic black tuxedo. When he saw Camille walking down the aisle, his eyes filled with tears. She was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. The ceremony was held under an arch covered in roses and ivy. The officiant spoke about love, about second chances, about 2 people who'd found each other against all odds. When it came time for vows, Julian went first. Camille, he began, his voice thick with emotion. The day you saved my mother, you saved me too. You reminded me what matters. You showed me what real strength looks like. You taught me that success isn't measured in money or power, but in the lives we touch and the love we share. I promise to spend every day of my life being worthy of your love. I promise to build our dreams together. I promise to always see you, really see you, for the incredible woman you are. I love you. Today, tomorrow, and forever. Camille wiped tears from her cheeks before speaking her own vows. Julian, when I met you, I was at my lowest point. I had nothing to offer but kindness. And somehow, you saw that as everything. You didn't see a homeless woman. You saw me. My heart. My potential. My worth. You gave me back my life, not with money or gifts, but by believing in me when I'd stopped believing in myself. I promise to be your partner in everything. I promise to challenge you, support you, and love you with all that I am. I promise to never forget where we started and to always honor how far we've come. I love you. Completely and forever. There wasn't a dry eye in the audience. By the power vested in me, the officiant said, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride. Julian pulled Camille close and kissed her as everyone cheered. They turned to face their guests as husband and wife, both of them grinning with pure joy. The reception was magical. Dinner was served at long tables set up in the gardens. The food was delicious, the champagne flowed freely, and the atmosphere was filled with love and laughter. Eleanor gave the first toast, standing at the head table with tears streaming down her face. I want to tell you all a story, she began. 8 months ago, I collapsed on a sidewalk downtown. I was alone, scared, and slipping away. And then an angel appeared. A beautiful young woman who had every reason to keep walking but didn't. She stayed with me. She gave me her last glucose tablets she'd bought for herself because she needed them. She saved my life that day, but she did more than that. She brought love back into our family. She gave my son a reason to live instead of just work. She created a foundation that's changing lives every single day. Camille, you are the daughter I always wanted. And Julian, you are the luckiest man alive. To the bride and groom. To the bride and groom, everyone echoed, raising their glasses. Natasha spoke next, telling funny stories about their friendship, about Camille's endless optimism even during the hardest times. Thomas talked about watching Julian fall in love and become a better person because of it. Patricia, now the foundation's office manager, stood up unexpectedly. I wasn't going to speak, she said nervously. But I need to say something. 6 months ago, Camille saved my life. Not in the dramatic way she saved Eleanor, but in a way that was just as important. She gave me hope when I had none. She helped me without judgment, without making me feel small. She saw my potential when I couldn't see it myself. And that's what she does, every single day, for everyone she meets. Julian, you married the best person I know. Take care of her. I will, Julian promised, pulling Camille close. When the speeches ended, the band started playing. Julian and Camille took the floor for their first dance as husband and wife. They'd chosen an old classic, something with meaning but also with joy. As they swayed together, Julian whispered in her ear. Happy. Happier than I ever imagined possible, Camille replied. Good. Because this is just the beginning. We have a whole life ahead of us. A whole life, Camille repeated, smiling. I like the sound of that. They danced together, surrounded by the people who'd become their family. Eleanor watched with joy. Natasha and Thomas danced nearby, both of them smiling. The foundation staff celebrated, knowing they were part of something special. As the evening progressed, the party moved from formal to festive. People danced, laughed, shared stories. The gardens were lit with thousands of string lights, creating a magical atmosphere. Late in the evening, as things were winding down, Julian and Camille found a quiet moment alone by the reflecting pool. Do you remember what you said to me that first night at the hospital? Julian asked. I said a lot of things that night. You said you were grateful. That you'd accept my help. At the time, I didn't understand how significant that was. But now I do. You could have let pride stop you. You could have refused everything I offered. But you didn't. You accepted help with grace, and that decision changed both our lives. Camille thought about that. Aunt Gloria used to say that accepting help isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's recognizing that we're all connected, that we all need each other sometimes. She was a smart woman. The smartest. Julian pulled Camille into his arms. I can't wait to see what we build together. The foundation is just the beginning. There's so much more we can do. Together, Camille emphasized. That's the key. Not you helping people. Not me helping people. But us, working together, making a real difference. Together, Julian agreed. The party finally ended around midnight. Guests departed with hugs and well wishes. Eleanor retired to her room, exhausted but happy. Natasha left with promises to call soon. Thomas gave Julian a firm handshake and Camille a warm hug. Finally, alone in their new suite in the main house, Julian and Camille stood by the window looking out at the gardens where they'd just celebrated their wedding. Mrs. Hartley, Julian said, testing out the name. I like the sound of that, Camille replied. Though I'm keeping Carter too. Camille Carter Hartley. To honor where I came from and where I'm going. Perfect, Julian said. Absolutely perfect. They stood there together, two people who'd found each other against all odds. A billionaire who'd been lost in work and expectations. A homeless woman who'd never lost her kindness despite losing everything else. One moment of compassion on a downtown sidewalk. One decision to stop and help instead of walking away. That's all it had taken to change everything. Now they stood on the other side of that moment, married, in love, and ready to spend the rest of their lives building something beautiful together. A foundation that helped others. A family that chose love. A partnership that would last forever. I love you, Camille whispered. I love you too, Julian replied. Today, tomorrow, and all the days after that. They kissed as husband and wife, as partners, as best friends, as forever. And in that moment, with the stars shining above them and the whole world spread out before them, everything was exactly as it should be. Their story had started with an ending. Camille's life falling apart, everything lost, nothing left but kindness. But endings are just beginnings in disguise. And their beginning? It was more beautiful than either of them could have imagined. The Second Chances Foundation continued to grow, helping thousands of people find their footing again. Patricia eventually became the assistant director, overseeing programs that helped single parents. The Gloria Carter Memorial Scholarship sent dozens of students back to school to finish their dreams. Julian stepped back from the day-to-day operations of Hartley Technologies, focusing instead on the foundation and on actually living his life. He never regretted it. Money, he realized, was just a tool. What you did with it mattered far more than how much you had. Camille found her calling again, not as a social worker drowning in bureaucracy, but as someone who could actually make policy, create programs, and help people without all the red tape that had frustrated her before. And Eleanor? She lived another 20 happy years, surrounded by the family she'd always wanted. She watched Julian and Camille have children. She held her grandchildren in her arms. She saw the foundation help thousands of people. And she never forgot the day a kind stranger saved her life and brought love back to her family. Because that's what this story is really about. Not about money or status or overcoming obstacles. It's about kindness. About seeing someone in need and helping without hesitation. About accepting help when it's offered with love. About building something meaningful with the people you care about. It's about second chances. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, those second chances turn out to be the best thing that ever happened to you. Are you rooting for love stories where kindness wins? Where good people get the happy endings they deserve? Subscribe now and never miss a story that will warm your heart and restore your faith in humanity. Your support keeps these stories coming.